How much are you relying on outside sources, psychics, intuitive guides, whatever, versus your own, just whatever being? Do you still rely on outside people like Paul?
I wouldn't call it a reliance as much as a guidance. And I go through cycles with everything. And it's funny because with the cycles that I go through, I had less of an understanding of them before. So for example, I'd be like super productive for a few months and then all of a sudden had no motivation to be productive in that way, but I'd be like forcing myself to show up and it wouldn't be the same and my mindset would be different and it would create this feeling of burnout. And then I realized that I go through cycles. It was actually learning about working with my female cycles and how most of a workday is actually created on the masculine cycle, which is a 24-hour period, whereas female cycles are in a 28-day period. And
Hmm.
so I did an episode on that once about working with my cycles and understanding like this is the point that tends to be productive going out into the world. This is the point where you go back and hibernate and you receive. And so I began balancing my masculine and feminine energy. But on a grander scale, I go through different cycles too of consumption versus creation. And so I will read a bunch of books and be obsessed with like going on long walks and listening to audiobooks, and then I won't want to listen to anything. And I know that's my time. Whereas before I used to then kind of beat myself up and be like, oh, are you getting lazy? Like, do you just want to watch Netflix instead? Like, what you just want to sit there and lay down? And I started to realize, wait, this is the perfect time actually for more meditation and for more sitting with myself and receiving what there is outside of those more tangible sources. And
Mhm.
so right now I've been in a educational consumption, but just as of like 6 days ago, I felt myself pulling out of that. And so now I've been making a priority to meditate more regularly again and to just create, write more, have things come from myself rather than from those outside sources. But I do trust that there'll be another season for that type of consumption or that type of uh, just outside inspiration.
Yeah, that's super cool to think about. And I love thinking about different cycles and um either as a cycle, as an oscillation, or as a spiral, like you're coming back to the same place, but you've grown since the last time you were back here. So it's like you're experiencing the same situations, but from a slightly more evolved perspective. And that's cool. It's something as a man, I like never would, I would probably have never even thought of that was a thing.
Well,
to
share the info with your wife because it's been life-changing for a good amount of people. I think women are hard on ourselves as it is. And that was a really big struggle for me, like doing and creating and feeling really proud of myself and then falling out of that and then just beating myself up. And so it would create a self-belief of like, maybe you're not meant for this. Maybe you don't have the endurance for success. Maybe you can't do this. And when I started being okay with that and just accepting it and being like, okay, well, now I'm going to plan my creation. Like, okay, yeah, I'll be working on a new course or whatever at this period of time, but at this period of time is just for inspiration or learning or just kind of enjoying that outsourcing during those times. And so it's played a pretty key role in what I've been capable of. And it's really just shifting my beliefs around what those, or really not deciding what meaning I'm going to give that. And I think we create meaning around so many things, and that meaning is what creates the self-belief, which then is what spurs or inhibits our action and what we actually do in the world. So that was a game changer for me.
Yeah, I definitely notice my own judgments around like my wife goes through cycles where she'll say like, okay, I'm just gonna rest for a few days and like not do anything. And I'm like, that makes me anxious. I'm like, how could you just want to not do something for like a whole week? And she's like, yeah, that's just what I should be doing right now. I'm like, okay, all right. I trust you, but like I need to do something. I'm gonna go do something for you.
I just read this thing that said that there have been studies that have equated what women feel around the time of their periods to a heart attack. And it's actually very similar in the pain scale or something, depending. I don't really have those negative side effects, but a lot of people I know.
So you're saying
do.
heart attacks really aren't that bad?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. But it's like, we just get up and go to work through it. And it will like boardroom. I saw this meme and man, it's gross, but I'm going to share it with you verbally. But it's like, it was just this picture of like this woman just like totally calm standing in front of like a room of people. Looked like she was about to give a presentation, but the caption on it was like something like, the greatest superpower was feeling like a blood clot slowly gush out and keeping a straight face in front of a room full of people. I'm so sorry, listeners. That was horrible of me to give you that visual, but I laughed so hard because I think most people have been in that situation where you know exactly what's happening. That's where your focus is, but you're in the middle of a conversation. It's just like, women are superheroes. You deal with that. Yes, let her rest is what I'm saying.
Yes, she gets to rest. And that probably would have grossed me out a lot more if I hadn't,
watched her give birth.
Exactly. Yeah. I got to deliver both my kids, which was really amazing. And so it's like, it's kind of gross.
Oh yeah, 100%. I was like, I promise you, I'm not going to poop a little, but I pooped a little. So there's that.
So your kid is a year-ish?
He just turned a year on February 24th.
Oh, well, happy birthday to him, right?
Yeah, little Bravery.
Bravery. That's a cool name. How'd you come up with that name?
When we were like thinking about having a baby, we would go to this park up in Brentwood in Los Angeles that just overlooked like the whole city. And we were sitting there, and for some reason we were just coming up with baby names. And there were certain letters that we wanted, but I wanted something meaningful. Brave came up and I loved it. And then my husband a few weeks later was actually like, what about Bravery? Then he can choose. And Bravery is one of those names too where it sounds like Avery, so it actually sounds very similar to a name that already existed, but it was super unique, which I wanted. And then he can go by Brave. We call him Bravey. And then his middle name is Summit because we met in the mountains and now we live in the mountains. We moved back to actually have a baby up here, so his middle name is Summit.
Yeah, that's so cool. That was one of my favorite things. It's kind of like when you're launching a new company or something and you're like, what are we even going to call this? And it's like a creative project, but you're really just getting divine inspiration, to like give them the right name.
I know. I hold a lot of importance to names. I worked for someone that actually had multiple successful businesses, but like didn't consider held no value to a name. So we just like come up with something. Example, I'm going to switch the letters so you can't look it up, but like DMT mobile. And then he forgot what those words, like what the letters stood for. So when I was working there, he had no idea what the first ones were. Like, I'm like, this has to be my email address. Make it something cool. And then he ended up spawning off another company and it didn't end up becoming a company. So I will share this one, but just decided to call it Jericho. That's a biblical term. He didn't know that even about the meaning of Jericho in the Bible. I can barely remember it, but it was also just spelled completely different. He's like, that's the name. I'm like, what? No, let me name the company, please.
Jericho was where they used sound vibrational technology to dissolve the walls. There's like a real weird weapon that they talked about.
In the Bible?
Yeah.
There was a Battle of Jericho.
And they brought down the walls of Jericho by using vibrational sound technology, and it dissolved them into sand or something like that.
I am going to need to revisit that story because I haven't heard it since I was like 7 years old, and the visuals were very different back then.
Well, and I could be totally off, but that's the story that I have. About
keep
that.
it because that's a better one than the one I formed, the memory I formed.
Hey friend, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this particular clip, then I have something else I want to tell you about, which is the League of Superconductors. It's a business mastermind that I run to elevate the greatest change makers of our time. That is people that I like to call quantum entrepreneurs, metaphysical, spiritual teachers, healers, coaches, light workers of different types. And this is a year-long business mastermind starting in May of 2022. So if that's the type of thing that you're looking for, if you're looking to better fuel your mission by having a business that brings in all the abundance you're looking for, that both operates at the 3D level, serving the people of Earth, and at a multi-dimensional level, bringing in all of the higher wisdom and experience that you have access to, that's what we're doing. So if that sounds like something for you, then you can check out the link below, read a little bit more about the program, what we do each month. And I also invite you to apply for a call with me, a strategy session. We can get to know each other. I'll coach you a little bit, and you can decide if that might be the exact thing that you've been looking for. All right, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.